Let's talk about the 8th seed, the team that continually has to fight its way through the regular season, that has to compete with 2 or 3 or 4 others in order to scrap its way into the NBA's second stage. What happens when they get there? Not much. By simple logic, in the playoffs, the 8th seed is the team with the most amount of losses in the regular season, and by default, that means that they're the worst team in the whole thing. It's like when your younger cousin plays pickup with the older guys at a family function or something. I mean, yeah, they were picked last, but they were picked to play in the game. They're not gonna score or make a good defensive play most of the time, but there's always a chance, however slim they may be. In the NBA playoffs, the 8th seeded team is the little cousin. They're in the game, but it's super unlikely that anything good's going to come out for them. It's a proven trope. You need superstars to win in the playoffs. 8th seeds are hardly ever that lucky to have one of those ready, and if they do, they're always surrounded by a cast that does like 28% of the heavy lifting. It is possible for a number 8 seed to beat a number 1 seed, but the set of circumstances would have to be an outlier, whether it be a set of injuries during the regular season, or an injury in the series, or some other crazy phenomenon. Go check out MDJ's video for more insight. That's enough about basketball. Let's get into numbers. We're gonna completely take out the game in question for a second to focus on the chances. Don't worry, it'll be easy to follow, and pretty darn interesting if I do say so myself. So, an NBA conference consists of 15 teams, and 8 of them make the playoffs. These teams are seeded according to how well they do in the regular season, basically how many games they win out of 82. The team with the most amount of wins is seeded first, and the team with the second most is the second seed, and so on and so forth. The first seed plays the 8th seed, the second seed plays the 7th seed, the third seed plays the 6th seed, and the 4th seed plays the 5th seed. In addition to playing along the objectively weakest path to the Western Conference Finals, as they don't have to play the 2 or the 3 seed, the first seed gets the 2 first games in the series at home, giving them the largest chance at a 2-0 lead, increasing their chances of winning significantly. While the other high-ranked seeds, 2, 3, and 4, don't get an objectively easier path, they have the same 2-0 home court advantage, pulling the odds in their favor. Looking at the compiled data for the past 30 years, we can see that the first seed unsurprisingly makes it out of the first round over 90% of the time. When facing an 8th seed in the first round, it's almost guaranteed that the first seed win in normal circumstances. The 5 times that the 8th seed has upset the first seed have been outliers in history. The We Believe Warriors, the Dikembe Mutombo Nuggets, the 1999 Knicks finals team, also go check out MDJ's video on that, the Grit and Grind Grizzlies, and an ACL tear from Derrick Rose against the 2012 Philadelphia 76ers. The second seed makes it out more often than even the first seed. There's only 4 instances of a 2-7 upset in the modern era of the NBA, and only one of them came after 2003, when the league discarded its best-of-5 first-round format to today's best-of-7. 2 of them came from the Run TMC Warriors in 89 and 91, and the other 2 came from the 1998 Knicks team, 1 year before making the finals as the 8th seed, and the San Antonio Spurs over the Dallas Mavericks in 2010. The third seed still makes it out of the first round about 75% of the time, but it's far less definite than the 1 and the 2. In the past decade, the 6 seeds that have upsetted 3 seeds are the 2018 New Orleans Pelicans over the Trailblazers in the first sweep of its kind, the 2014 Brooklyn Nets, the 2013 Golden State Warriors, and the 2009 San Antonio Spurs. So it's very possible, but unlikely. If your team is a 4th seed though, you better watch out, like seriously. Outside of the bottom 3 seeds, the 4th seed is the team least likely to make it to the second round. While, of course, it makes sense that the 4th and the 5th seeds should be similar, it doesn't really make that much sense that the 4th seed is eliminated more often than not. In the past 6 years, there's literally been a 4-5 upset in at least one of the conferences, and half of that include upsets in both. As expected, the first seed's probability of advancing from the first round to advancing from the second round drop, even if it's only by about 10%. Since they're facing teams with more wins than the 8th seed, either a 4th or 5th seed, chances are is that they're facing a better team with a better chance to beat them. Within the past 6 seasons, excluding the LeBron Warriors Spurs domination of 2012 to 2017, the 2018 Cavs, 2010 Celtics, and the 2006 Mavericks have all made it to at least the conference finals. The second and third seeds are more even matched, which again is what you'd expect. The 6th seed has only advanced to the conference finals 2 times before, and the 7th seed hasn't even made it once. so the matchups in the second round are typically between the 2 and 3 seeds. Since they're only 1 seed apart, it's more unlikely that they've won about the same amount of games, and are close together in terms of skill. The result is the 2 seed making it about 60% of the time, and the 3rd seed about 40%. If your team is a 6th, 7th, or 8th seed, then you can expect them to make the conference finals about once every 10 years, based on this data. If you're a 4th or 5th seed, then you could expect a berth about every 3 years or so. But if you're not a 1, 2, or 3 seed, chances of making the conference finals aren't that high, as they should be. If there wasn't weight to rankings in the regular season, then teams will coast far harder than they do now. Placings matter. The first seed's odds go down considerably in the conference finals, from like 80% to around 50%. Of course, this happens mainly because they're facing off against either the 2 or the 3 seed from the other side of the bracket, and they're quite a bit more competitive than 8th or 4 or 5. Off the top of my head, I can easily come up with situations where this applies. The Rockets-Warriors series of 2018. 27, man. 27. The last 2 years of the LeBron James Cavaliers, and in the OKC Golden State series that OKC had in the bag. Second and even 3rd seeds, or a 4th if your team has LeBron James, can be quite dangerous to the conference leader. The 2nd and 3rd seeds data matches up pretty well with that. 2nd seeds make it to the finals about 30% of the time, and 3rd seeds about 10%. 7th seeds historically don't do that great, and neither do 5th seeds, and I could only think that's because of the difficult schedule that they would have. Like, imagine if the Utah Jazz in 2019 made it past the Rockets. Immediately afterwards, they'd have to face the Warriors, and then after that, they'd have to face either the Nuggets or the Trailblazers, after beating the Warriors 4 times. The 7th seeds are similar. Like, imagine being on the Magic and having to face the 76ers after beating the Raptors, and then after that you'd have to beat the Milwaukee Bucks. That's tough, man. Man. The only reason the 6th seed and the 8th seeds have higher percentages are because of the 1995 Houston Rockets with Hakeem Olajuwon and the 1999 New York Knicks with Patrick Ewing. Both anomalies and involving world-class Hall of Famers. But anyway, we've now made it to the final stage, the NBA champion. Here are the results compiled from 30 years of playoff basketball. Moral of the story: if you're not a 1, 2, or 3 seed and you don't have a potential top 10 all-time player on your team, you're almost certain to not win the championship. The regular season is pretty obviously the key determinant in whether or not your team has playoff success. A lot of that has to do with consistency. If your team is able to win over 55 games in an 82-game season, then they're undoubtedly prepared to continue on into the championship series. If you're a seed anywhere from 4 to 8, consistency is the largest factor as to why. Even if a team is incredibly talented and capable of beating any of the league's best teams, there are some sort of shortcomings that hinder them from winning games in the regular season with consistency. And by extension, that same fault holds them back from winning in the playoffs. Even so, the 4th to 8th seeds exist to challenge the norm. Every once in a while, there is a We Believe team. There is a 6th seed champion in Houston. There is a chance. And just the fact that a chance exists gives the playoffs, the series, the game, an edge that you can't get in the regular season. So, even if the odds are against you, an impact can be made. Thanks for watching.
They have defeated the Dallas Mavericks in 6 as the confetti comes from above.